Hives is a fast-paced card game for 2 players. Defend your hives against bears and wasps. Collect warrior bees to protect worker bees. Send your worker bees to discover the diverse array of flowers in the field. Beware the fly swatter. A player must have a hive in play in order to collect flowers. To collect flowers, the player plays a worker bee, or hard worker bee, on the flower. The opponent has an opportunity to interrupt this action. If the player does not interrupt this action, then the flower is brought back and played on a hive. The game ends when one player collects 20 points worth of flowers. That player is the winner. To set up the game, shuffle the deck and deal 5 face-down cards to each player. Place the remaining face-down cards to one side between the players. This is the draw deck. In hives, the field is composed of 3 positions, each of which holds 1 face-up card to the one side of the draw deck. First, fill the field. This can be done from the player's hand, or the draw deck, or a combination of the two. Play hives, worker bees, and/or queen bees. Draw 1 card from the field, or 2 cards from the draw deck. Move the cards in the field, if any, 1 position nearer to the discard. Hives are played directly in front of the player. Each player may have up to 4 hives. Players use worker bees to collect flowers from the field and bring them back to a hive. If his or her opponent does not play a card to stop the worker bee, then the player discards the worker bee and places the flower on a hive of his or her choice. A hard worker bee works the same way as a worker bee, except that instead of discarding the hard worker bee after playing it on a flower, the hard worker bee returns to the hive with the flower. The hard worker bee can be used again on a later turn. When the hard worker bee is played from the hive, it is discarded, and the flower must be brought to the hive from which the hard worker bee was played. When a wasp has been played, the owner of the worker bee may immediately play a warrior bee from his or her hand. The wasp and the warrior bee are discarded, and the worker bee immediately carries the flower back to the hive. A queen bee is played directly onto a hive. When a player collects a flower with a regular worker bee from his or her hand, instead of discarding the worker bee, he or she may place it onto a hive with a queen bee. The worker bee may then be played a second time, on a later turn, like a hard worker bee. Each flower card has a point value, and many flower cards have special rules in order to determine how many points they are worth. A single crocus is worth 1 point. If a player has 2 crocuses, the combined value is 3 points. If a player has 3 crocuses, their total value is 6 points, and 4 crocuses are worth 10 points. Each daisy a player collects is worth a number of points equal to the number of hives that the player has. If a player has 3 daisies and 2 hives, each daisy is worth 2 points, for a total of 6 points. Each sunflower a player collects is worth a number of points equal to the number of sunflowers on his or her hives. For example, if a player has 3 sunflowers on his or her hives, each sunflower is worth 3 points, for a total of 9 points. A clematis is normally worth 2 points, but it is worth 6 points as long as it is on a hive with a queen bee. A clover is worth 5 points. A danger card interrupts the usual play of the game in some way. The fly swatter may be played immediately after the opponent plays a worker bee to claim a flower. That worker bee is discarded, and the flower is not gathered. A wasp may be played immediately after the opponent plays a worker bee. If the opponent does not play a warrior bee in response, then the wasp and the worker bee are discarded. The flower is not gathered. A player may play the hornet swarm at any point during his or her turn. The player discards the hornet swarm and chooses one of the opponent's hives. All bees on that hive are discarded immediately. If the rainy day is played from the draw deck into the field, all cards on the field, including the rainy day, are discarded, and no more may be played into the field until the next turn. If the bear is played from the draw deck into the field during a player's turn, his or her opponent may choose to discard one of the player's hives, along with every card on the hive. If the bear is drawn from the draw deck into a player's hand, that player must either discard his or her entire hand, including the bear, or allow his or her opponent to choose a hive to destroy and discard the bear.